Hey CC friends, I'm Allie. Thanks for joining for today's art lesson on perspective. Let's warm up using our sheet of paper here. This is just printer paper. We're going to fold it. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. If your edges don't line up, that's okay, because we're just warming up our hands and brain. We're gonna fold this a second time and then a third time. We're gonna open this up and we've created 8 nice sections. Grab a dark color crayon. I'm using black here. I'm also gonna be using a marker just to label it so you can see what we're doing, but you are welcome just to stick with the crayon. So on our top row here, we're going to be drawing shapes. On our bottom row here, we're going to be doing forms. So shapes are flat, they don't have dimension. They're only 2D. Forms are 3D. So let's put that down. So let's draw 4 basic shapes here. We're going to do a circle. We're going to do a square. We're going to do a triangle and an oval. Now we're going to take these shapes and we're going to draw kind of like their cousin in the forms, because we could measure the length of it, the width of it, and the height of it. But this looks very flat, but let's make these look like they have dimension. So first we're going to draw our circle. And to make it look like it has dimension, we need to we're gonna shade it in. So I'm using kind of a medium hand, then a light hand, until it kind of fades off, like so. Now let's take our square. We're gonna start by drawing a square again, and then we're gonna do 3 little diagonal lines going back in the same direction, the same length. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to connect those 3. So I started with my square and then 3 lines. Don't worry about this bottom one in the corner. So now, see how this line is straight? We're going to make the same direction line here. So this parallel line goes here and here. Now our triangle. We start with the shape of our triangle. Like we did the small line here, we're going to go back like that. Then we're going to connect the top point down to the bottom point. So we only drew 1 extra line there, and now we have a pyramid. And then for our oval, we're going to change it into a cylinder. So I'm going to take that oval, I'm going to draw that. I'm going to do 2 parallel lines coming down the same length. Then this has a slight curve, and so this will have a slight curve, like so. Now we can do some shading on these as well to make them look like they have more dimension. And we can kind of ground them. So let's make it look like that our forms are sitting on a table here. I'm going to draw a line and I'm going to jump over the forms that I just drew. So if we have our light source coming from this angle, then this side would kind of be dark, so we can make it look like it's got like a shadow sitting right here. And again, this is just for warm up. If you don't have time to do this, then you can jump ahead to the lesson down in the description. It will have when I'm starting the pyramid landscape, Egyptian landscape. And you can also kind of shade underneath here. And this takes practice, so don't get discouraged. If you just want to draw the forms like that, that's great. This is just the next level on showing some perspective and how to create a little depth in your objects. And then our cylinder. So here are our shapes: circle, square, triangle, oval. Changing them into forms, they become a sphere, cube, pyramid, and a cylinder. Let's get started with our Egyptian landscape. So here's a magic treehouse book, Mummies in the Morning. So since we're drawing an Egyptian pyramid, here's one in the book here. And here we can look at perspective. Here we have this palm tree extremely close to us, so it appears larger. We know in real life that this pyramid would be much taller than this palm tree, but because the palm tree is closer to us, it's going to appear bigger. So we have the foreground, then here in the middle ground, we have the Egyptians here, and then in the background, we have this pyramid. And so things that are further away are going to appear smaller. So look around in books that you have and see if you can recognize perspective of the foreground, middle ground, and background. So let's create our own now. Okay, before we get started on drawing our landscape, I want to point out how can we make our pyramid look like the pyramids in Egypt. Look at these two examples. Both of them are pyramids, but which one looks more like the pyramids in Egypt? This one. This one's a little too tall. So these are about the same height, but do you see this one's probably about 3.5 times the length of it. So we want to give a nice wide base to our pyramid. We don't want it too skinny or it's not gonna read like a pyramid that should be in the Egyptian desert. So let's get started. If you're using Sharpie, then make sure to protect your table and have a piece of paper underneath. So this is what we are working with here. This doesn't have color yet, but we're going to be doing a large pyramid and 2 pyramids in the back, like so. And you see how it's got that nice wide base? We don't want it to be too skinny. So I'm gonna come about 3 or so fingers up, and I'm gonna scoot in just a little bit, and I'm gonna give this nice wide base for my pyramid. If you want an adult to put some dots for you so you can connect it, you can do that. Now I don't wanna put my dot up here, then it's gonna be too skinny. So we could come up, let's see if this is about 3 fingers, maybe we come up about 4 fingers. I'll put a dot right there, it's kind of about the middle, and I'm going to connect these corners here. That one didn't quite meet up, so you know what? I'm just gonna draw a line and let them connect. In our warm-up, remember we drew one little line going back, so we're gonna do that. It's not gonna go straight, we're gonna kind of angle it. And now we're going to join this top line and this to our new line here. You notice how I'm changing the direction of my paper? You don't have to keep it still. You can change it because it's probably going to be more natural for me just to draw my line straight down, so I can turn my paper to make it easier for me to draw. So there's our first pyramid, and then we're going to do 2 small ones in the back. Okay, now we can put like little openings to them if we would like. I mean, it is a dot back there, so small. We don't want to put the door too big because then it would make the pyramid look too big. So we're just going to put it, a tiny little opening there. Then we want to kind of ground these. So we're going to do a horizon line. That is what is going to separate our ground from our sky. And it depends on the placement of where your pyramids are, but there's not like a wrong way other than drawing through. Don't draw through your pyramids that you just took the time to do. And think about the sand that's on the desert floor. Like sometimes that blows up and you've got these huge dunes. So it does not have to be straight across. We can have a lot more movement in it. So we can have something like that. Let me show you some other examples. These are not colored yet. See how this line went through the top of those. So there's many different ways to do it. That one went through, but all of them. It just depends on where yours are placed on the paper. So now we can add the color, and I'm going to go ahead and get a black pen. I'm going to write my name on it before I start adding color. I like to put the date on there. If you would like to add more detail to yours, then you could add in the large blocks that they would use to build the pyramids. So you could get a pen so it's not too heavy with the marker and draw those. And these in the background are so far away that you probably couldn't tell that they even had the blocks from your perspective right here. Now there's a lot of other things you could add. Maybe you want to put some cactus. Maybe you want to put a sun. My thing about the sun is, one, the sun is round, so don't draw a quarter of a sun up here on the paper. And I would not use the black pen. If you would like to draw a sun, then just, we'll put him right here. He's not that big in the sky. Now, the rays that come off of the sun are quite large, but the actual sun, when you look up into the sky, does not take up the whole thing. So don't let your sun like dominate the landscape. There's many different ways that you could go to add color to this. You could use watercolor, crayons, oil pastels, use what materials you have. It would be pretty if you did like crayons or oil pastels, like for the pyramids in the sand, and then you could do a really smooth watercolor sky. But again, what do you have time for and what is going to work for you? So here's a little bit lighter orange around it, kind of like a little glowing sun. And then a little yellow around that. See that? So I used 3 colors and kind of blended them together. So let's color it, and remember the direction. Like if I start coloring in one direction, then I want to kind of stay in that direction. I'm using a really light hand here with this blue, just kind of a faint blue sky. I want to really saturate my pyramids down here and let those be the ones that stand out. And so I could use a heavier hand on those, but this is real light. Remember to go around your pyramids if they're sticking above your horizon line here. You could even color a little bit more yellow. Now it's time for my pyramids. So when I think of the desert, I think of yellows and browns. We'll use the oranges for the sky. And you may have more colors in your collection. So you can mix some of these together. So let's give our pyramids nice strong color. And because these are in the background, I'm gonna even put a little bit of brown on them because we can't see them quite as crisp and clear as the one that's standing up close to us here. Now this is the one that I did the brick pattern on, but again, you don't have to do that. That's just drawing the little lines and then alternating every other block up there to make it look like it has the pyramids, to make it look like it has the blocks. You can just do that. You can just color it in too. And remember to use your test paper. So here's a dandelion color and then a regular yellow, and so you could mix them together. So I had a little bit of white show through, and I can just come back and it adds a little bit of depth to that. And now it's time to do the sand in our desert. So I've got a couple different color browns here. But use what you have, and you could even take a little black. You probably have a black and a regular brown. You could even do that kind of in the background where it's going to be darker, real lights. Okay, see how my hand's getting really light here? Then we can start integrating in some other colors. And shading takes practice. So if you just want to do all of yours the same, that's okay. One way you could add interest to this is to do like a rubbing. So if you are in a building that has block wall, cinder block walls, you could go over there and you could rub this on that and it could look like a little kind of a bumpy desert. Or maybe you have like a brick house. You just have to be careful because it could poke through your paper, but you could go to something that has some dimension to it. Like I even have a countertop that has some bumps to it. I think I'll go do that and then come back and finish filming to show you what it could look like. So still just gonna use crayon, but I'm gonna put this underneath the surface. All right, I'm in my boys' bathroom right now, and their countertop has some texture on it, and so I'm going to lay my paper on here and I'm going to color it and see that texture come through. Do you see how the texture starts to come through here? So you could do this on maybe a counter that you have, could be on the sidewalk outside, and you could come back and layer it. So you can do, like I'm gonna do this yellow, and then we could do another color in between here. So I'll finish this, and then we'll go back and we'll add in another color too. You're doing a rubbing like this, it doesn't have to be really slow. It can be a lot faster, more like this. I don't have my stand in here. This is kind of hard to do it without holding the other side of the paper. So it can just kind of be more of a faster stroke. Now let's go back and add another layer of color on this. Okay, so I just did this rubbing of this like golden yellow, and then I can take like my regular yellow, and now I'm back on my smooth surface and color in between, just on top of it, all over. And that's filling in those white spots. You do not have to do this. I'm just showing you how you can take crayons, regular printer paper, and just add some different dimension and depth to it, texture with the materials that are around us. All right, so there is our Egyptian landscape working on perspective. There are many great perspective lessons out there, and some of them can get very detailed and complicated by using rulers and trying to do like the roads with the exact buildings. And this is just a simple and quick way to accomplish and finish a project in community day or at home. So have fun with it. Go back and do it again and add some other things to it. And a little side notes, practice. Try it again. Maybe your horizon line goes above it. Maybe you add another mountain in here. We have to practice at it. We have to practice and practice and practice and practice, and then start doodling and working on, was practicing my writing and just having all fun on my paper. So have fun creating your Egyptian landscape. Thanks for joining.